I love roguelike games. You know those games where you brought into some weird place, kill a bunch of weirdos, pick up items, kill more weirdos, and eventually meet your demise? Unless they become really OP until you're literally unkillable? Yeah, those. I played Risk of Rain 2 and Survivors of the Void DLC for a long time, and while I loved that game to bits, I naturally started to itch for a new game. I love the Risk of Rain franchise, and after the disaster of a launch for Secrets of the Storm, that itch only got stronger. And while Risk of Rain Returns came out and had a ton of fun with it, it still didn't scratch that itch I was feeling. I needed something new, and while there are great roguelikes out there, I just couldn't find that perfect game that satisfied my itch. But luckily, thanks to a friend, I found this roguelike I'd never heard about, put it on my radar, and eventually bought it. And thank God I did. Ember Knights is an action-packed top-down hack-and-slash roguelite made by Doom Turtle where you play as these so-called legendary Ember Knights which get summoned by Esper. Esper is an Elder Steward in the Nexus, and the Nexus is the home of the Stewards, and the Stewards being a friendly species in the Prime Worlds, and the Prime Worlds is where the entire game takes place. The main plot of the game, however, is a wannabe Ganondorf evil dude named Praxis is attempting to tear apart the Prime Worlds and take them as his own. You know, average take over the world type stuff. Praxis starts off by destroying the Nexus and the Ember Tree, causing Esper to summon the Ember Knights to help. But this is where the fun starts. The Ember Knights, or Knight if you're playing single player, they front flip into the tear Praxis created and are teleported into the first Prime World, Skogfirth. You're pretty much instantly thrown into the action, which is always a good choice for these kind of games. After the first room or two, you are quickly introduced to skills. Skills are basically the ability system in Ember Knights. You got bombs, fire, ice, all the things. You have 2 skill slots, and if you cast them with the right timing, you get a perfect cast, making the skill do more damage and just cast a better version of the skill. And you refresh your skills not just by regular cooldowns, but with a predetermined amount of hits on enemies with your weapon. Which is a way better system than cooldowns because you get rewarded for playing aggressively instead of just waiting around for your cooldowns to be over so you can do more damage. Looking at you, Risk of Rain Returns. After that, you run into a relic selector, much like the skill selector. And relics are basically your items or pickups you see in other games. And Ember Knight's build potential is amazing, honestly. You can make just a regular fire build, ice build, or whatever. Or a fire and poison build, making you an Ember Witch or something. It's awesome. After a while running through Skogfirth, you'll run into Eve, a Komodo dragon. I think that's a Komodo dragon. Wizard engineer person. And they explain that they are a tinkerer and janitor of sorts for the Nexus and Prime Worlds. And something about skill tablets. And then they just run off since they're behind schedule. Strange. Eventually you'll reach the end of Skogfirth though, and enter the boss room. A giant bug creature thing called Rixazaw? Weird name. Anyway, this big ass bug honestly puts up a good fight, especially for new players. It can be a pushover, but you'll easily get punished for messing up. It has an attack where it spawns more bugs, and this is probably where most new players would mess up. Overall, solid first boss fight. Once you defeat it though, and do a sick victory dance, you'll notice the big ass bug dropped a skill tablet. Hey, E said something about that. That's crazy. Anyway, you find the next tear Praxis created, and you do yet another front flip inside. It'll take you to the Steadfast Citadel, a cold, frozen over castle filled with a bunch of knights and archers trying to kill you. Like me though, you'll probably mess up with the new enemies presented to you, since they're nothing like the ones at Skogfirth. It's inevitable you'll meet your first death eventually, and you'll be taken back to the Nexus though. Esper calls out to us when we fix the Ember Tree, giving Esper a surge of strength. Esper goes on to explain what's going on here, but I already told you, so... Anyway, Esper senses the relic orbs we picked up earlier and he uses his Journal 3 to shatter the orbs for us, unlocking new relics. Eve is here as well and tells us we can give them skill tablets to unlock new skills, much like the relic orbs. We've also been collecting Ember throughout our time here. Ember is basically the currency for unlocking permanent upgrades for your runs, and Ember is what powers the Ember Tree. All of this though is what makes up the roguelite element of Ember Knights though, not roguelike. Sorry, I said roguelike, didn't I? My bad. But everything I just explained is pretty much the main gameplay loop for progression and story. I want to explain, yes, the story feels pretty average, like, you know, an evil dude taking over the world and you play as the good guys to stop the evil villain type thing. But you have to understand how much of a refresher it is, mainly for the indie genre. Moving away from Ember Knights for a second, I want to talk about Dead Cells and Hades. I played both of these games a solid amount, and while I did get hooked partially, I dropped them after not that long of playtime. Main reason being is I had pretty much no idea what was going on and why I was fighting these enemies anyway. But this is most likely just my problem and me not understanding stories, but it feels too, like, complicated. Ember Knights though, it's just simple, while still being extremely fun and satisfying. Fun to look at. I haven't talked about Ember Knights' pixel graphics, but as you may see, they're very smooth and just pretty. It's pretty damn impressive considering how small of a team Doom Turtle is. I do need to give credit where credit's due though, because Dead Cells is also very satisfying to play, much like Ember Knights. I did have fun with it, and I'd like to play more in the future. Back to Ember Knights though, you unlock 6 weapons as you progress through the game. The Ember Blade, the Guardian Bow, Nexal Staff, Rift Hammer, Razor Wind, and the Reaper's Toll. The Ember Blade is what we've been using already. It's just your trusty sword, and while it may both feel and sound weak, this thing can shred if you get a good build going in your run. Honestly, this weapon is probably my favorite. All around, can deal with every situation ideally. S tier. The Guardian Bow is the first ranged weapon you get introduced to, and it teaches you to stand back instead of getting in the enemy's faces. And what I like about this weapon is it makes you feel like Hawkeye, where you stand in one spot, quickly turning and shooting and dodging. It feels great. The Guardian Bow is the first weapon that has a charge attack, it basically being just a charge shot. If you perfect cast its attack 3 times in a row, your arrow does more damage and makes a cool sound, which just makes it 2 times better. A solid ranged weapon, A tier. The Nexal Staff is a mage weapon for skills. Its actual weapon attacks and damage aren't all that great. The M1 attack does so little damage it feels like you're tickling the enemies, but it's more an attack to proc your relics or stun enemies. Its charge attack is the main purpose though. You charge your staff into an AoE with lightning, which does a lot of hits to the enemies you hit with it. And like I said earlier, you refresh your skills with weapon hits, so it's very good for refreshing your skills quickly so you can spam them. But it's basically the whole point of this weapon. The Nexal Staff also comes with a skill where you just shoot out these orbs to compensate for the lack of weapon damage. But the Nexal Staff can be stupid overpowered by spamming your skills and it's very fun. A tier. The Rift Hammer is a slow, hard-hitting hammer that I've really only used 1 or 2 times, so I don't really have much to say about it. I'm not much for being slow in these kind of games, so I don't really like this weapon. But in the times I've used this weapon, it has proven to be effective. The only problem is I kinda suck at using it, so it gives. I see this weapon at its best as a support in multiplayer. So if it wasn't for my lack of skill, I'd probably give this weapon a B tier. But because of that, it's going in C. Sorry, Rift Hammer. Now the Razor Wind is a boomerang-like precision-based weapon. Its charge attack is a throw that does damage as it comes back to you. And its weapon is pretty solid, but it does have one main issue. I've done my fair share of runs with this thing, and my main complaint with it is in the description of the weapon it says you're highly mobile and fast-paced. And when you're using both the M1 and charge attack, you can barely move at all, completely getting rid of the whole fast-paced thing. It also takes ridiculously long to charge the charge attack, but it also takes pretty long to charge every other charge attack, so that's justified. Excluding the movement thing though, Razor Wind is very solid and could be a great weapon when you get good at it. But if it wasn't for the slow moving thing with your attacks, I would give this weapon a solid A tier. But for that, I'm making it B. Oh my god, Doom Turtle, if you're watching this, please buff movement for Razor Wind, please! The Reaper's Toll is a pretty badass melee weapon that is reminiscent of the Ember Blade and Rift Hammer. Its whole shtick is you get this ammo every time you land your 3rd hit on your M1 attack. And your charge attack uses these charges to shoot a projectile that if hits enemies are marked with a debuff that makes them take more damage from your M1 attack. Overall, the Reaper's Toll is a solid weapon that has good build variety and potential. A tier. As you progress through the game, you'll eventually unlock weapon modding. You can collect a currency called Ash in your runs, and it can be used to unlock permanent upgrades for your weapons, much like Ember. These upgrades are awesome and only expand build variety. For example, exploding arrows for the bow, a cool spin attack for the sword. It's so cool. Obviously though, you can have the same amount of fun with one weapon as you can with the last, so don't let these dumb rankings discourage you. So play however you want. Also, I forgot to mention that the weapons in Ember Knights are pretty much your class or character selection, as you can see with the character change with your knight, much like the survivors in Risk of Rain 2. This whole video, I've pretty much just been explaining the first hour or 2 of playing Ember Knights. I haven't even gone into the mid or late game yet. Ember Knights is no exception when it comes to becoming OP and shredding everything in your path like an unstoppable powerhouse, like you do in the Risk of Rain games. And it is very fun to do so. The thing is though, I don't want to spoil that part of the game since I think it's the best part. I will tell you though, the final boss is sick, and so are the things you unlock throughout progression. It's definitely worth putting your free time into, and it's just so much fun. That's really all I can say without spoiling though. Alright, so before I end the video, a small tangent with the multiplayer real quick. While Ember Knights is a solid multiplayer experience, it has its issues. And from the handful of times I've played multiplayer, here's what I think should be changed. There should definitely be a zoom on option somewhere in the settings, because a lot of the time the screen feels very cluttered, and it'd be awesome if there's a zoom setting. But I do understand that this isn't even possible to implement into the game since the rooms are probably all made around a zoom being preset into one position. There's a few bosses in the game that zoom the camera out automatically though, and those feel great in both single player and multiplayer. Another thing is there should be some sort of UI customization. where you could reposition and resize the little UI for each player. This could be good for single player too, having your character in the bottom middle of the screen and smaller. Note that my experience with Ember Knights is entirely single player though, and I just think if these things were added to the game, it would add a lot to quality of life. And I'm sure it would please the community as well. But that's pretty much Ember Knights at its core. And I only scratched the surface of Ember Knights and what it offers content-wise. Ember Knights has a ton to do for its price. Seriously. In conclusion though, Ember Knights is a very smooth, satisfying, and refreshing roguelite for the indie genre that I think deserves more recognition. If you even thought about buying it, then do it right now. What are you still doing here? It's on Steam, Nintendo Switch, and it's coming to PlayStation and Xbox sometime this year. It's usually $20, but goes on sale frequently for 10, so go play it. I didn't even mention the music in Ember Knights. It's really good and totally fits the vibe the game gives off. It's been playing in the background of this video the whole time. I'll play a snippet of my favorite songs right now. I also didn't mention the juicy DLC Ember Knights came out with back in October last year, Wrath of the Architect. It goes for $10 US and has even better music, but while I'm not going to talk about it here, it is pretty good, so go look into it yourself if you want more Ember Knights content. So yeah, that's all I have to say. Go play Ember Knights, bye! Man, that was hard to voice over. This is my first time writing a script and voicing over one, so I'm sorry if it was structured poorly, but at least I had fun making it. I mainly made this video because I think Ember Knights deserves more recognition and more people should play it. I also try not to spoil the game too much, and I really only went in depth in the first hour or two of when you first play the game. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and subscribe and go play Ember Knights.